mean, I knew that I wanted to go to Stanford since I was in 7th grade. The very first time I moved into my room, I printed up a Stanford logo on a piece of paper, full-size image, you know. I remember clicking on the full-size image. I wanted that thing to be big, and I posted it on the back of my door. So every time I closed my door, I'd see that Stanford logo, you know, and I got to stay focused and do the right things to make that happen. New Mexico is a tough place to get through. It is a hard place to be successful from. I've seen, growing up now, I've seen a lot of my friends that fell off from what they were really capable of.
A familiar sound to many here in Albuquerque.
Continues to try to bring down the crime rate in the city.
One of the 10 most dangerous big cities in the nation.
I loved wrestling, but I come from a different background where, you know, athletics and those things were not important. You know, we had more important things to worry about, like having your damn lights on, and, you know, financially it wasn't easy at all.
You know, knowing Real's personality, he's always been very independent and very self-motivated kid.
I don't know, I've always been super close to like my family, like they're my friends.
Real, I want you to know this ain't wrestling. You last right now. You know Big Joey on that diet, he'll steal your food. We live poor around here. Watch your back. Don't your seat back.
My uncle, who's not really blood, but he's as close to as an uncle can get, you know. He became my coach, my very first coach. And that's how I got into wrestling.
Right away, you could see that Real was different.
He like picked it up so good his first season.
He was like seriously a remote control since the day one. You'd yell out, do this, and Real would be doing the same thing on the damn mat, on the darn mat, you know?
We first started in a club called New Mexico Elite, and there were a lot of really good wrestlers in there.
It was a great program, and you know, we had all the studs in New Mexico, so I was kind of running a lot of the practices with another dad, and they was like, man, coach, we want you to do it. And they forced me to do a program is actually what happened. I didn't even want to.
We took those people and brought them to our club too, and it's New Mexico Beast, and that kind of became what we started.
My name is Israel Martinez. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico for several years, and my passion's wrestling, my passion's high school and youth wrestling, and I invited some of the top youth Albuquerque wrestlers to a fight gym.
I remember going to a camp that he held at Jackson's. He had known about me because I was pretty successful as a little kid.
We wrestled some of his boys out in Tulsa. Well, we would beat those guys. And you know, Izzy's like, who the hell are these dudes in New Mexico? So he was like, hey, come down to Jackson's, bring Real. So I went down there, we started talking, and Izzy was like, why don't you bring a bunch of your kids over here and I'll run a practice. And it was like, all right, cool. You know, we want to, yeah, you know, Izzy, we'll see what you got, Izzy style.
So Real Wood showed up along with several of the top wrestlers from the state of New Mexico.
Yeah, he reminded me of my dad. Yeah, so how to explain it? Very intense. I can't say that enough.
And when all these guys came in and were working out, there was only one kid that stood out, and that was Real Woods.
And that's kind of how the connection was made. Every time he came into town, he was my coach. And the things that he was showing me were working, so that relationship built right away. I was a kid who liked to work hard, you know? I knew I wanted to be great.
Him and my boy related. I could see the way he would talk to Real and the way Real would respond.
I really enjoyed him as a coach, and then off the mat, I enjoyed him just as much. He's a great guy.
And it was just like at that point, you know, it was hard, but as a father, you know, that's my boy, but I could see that connection, you know? So I knew at that time that Izzy and Real would be good together, you know?
Before I had all these athletes come in, these high school wrestlers and youth wrestlers from Albuquerque, The golden ticket was the unheard of thing that I didn't announce publicly, and that was that I was looking for a young man who I could bring to Chicago, who could take advantage of the opportunity of what we have here in Chicago. So that was the elephant in the room, and after our second day, I knew Real was the guy.
So I remember having a meeting with Izzy and my dad. They really wanted me to make the decision. Hearing that, like, moving away from my family, moving away from the life that I built as a kid, it was very scary.
We knew that Montini's education level was high. New Mexico's got a very low grade level all around. So there was a lot of strain, worried about if he would be successful. Well, heck, we was worried if he'd even be able to get into Montini.
He's like, I'm gonna find one reason for him not to go.
Just the subject matter that was being taught, I was just taken.
And he came home and he's like, I can't find a reason for him not to go. And I was like, you're out of your mind. Like, I still was totally not on board.
You know, when I was discussing colleges with the Woods family, you kind of mentioned some big name schools because you're from the Midwest, Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, and then the top academic schools, Northwestern, Michigan, and none of that was getting Jen Woods off the couch. None of that was getting Ray Woods off the seat of his pants. But Stanford Wrestling was what got Mama Woods off the couch and hugging me and really looking at, wow, this could be the goal, the mecca of education and wrestling.
He really opened our eyes to the opportunity and moving out here and getting a better education, you know, and a better opportunity to follow my dream.
Immediately that day, I started working with Ray Woods, Jen Woods, so I could be trusted to take their boy to one of the toughest cities in the world, Chicago. It's pretty scary to think about your boy going away for a weekend trip, let alone his whole high school career. I don't do things unless I know they're gonna work, right? Like, yeah, I make the move and then you make it work.
My family is the biggest influence that I have. Everything great about me comes from them.
How I explain the Woods family is they are rich in love. They have an interesting dynamic, but I knew that they were capable family to still give Real enough love to make it work and to make sure Real accomplished his goals.
All of my goals and dreams, you know, at the foundation are for my family.
Before Izzy came to us, we were talking about it would be great to provide this opportunity for somebody to come and wrestle at Montini because Kagan had had so much success. And we said, wouldn't that be a great idea? And then when Izzy said it, we were like, yes, and we've already decided he could live with us.
Izzy came to us with the idea of Real coming here and providing him the opportunity. It was a casual idea. Izzy has a way of making it your idea. You know what I mean?
Like, I felt like he's gonna be in the same environment, the way we handle our family, the way we run our lives. We were both like, this might be able to work. I didn't think I would ever be at that point.
You know, after sending your boy off to Chicago away from you, there are nights where my mom would, you know, shed tears because I was away, and my dad would shed tears. You know, I didn't know if my dad was shedding tears, obviously. Dad's a strong man.
Real only had plan A, or we should say plan Stanford. And it's been that way since he was in 7th grade or even before that.
He knew that that's what I wanted. You know, if I were to get into Stanford, that's where I was going to go.
The chances of a kid going from here and being able to get into Stanford, you know, the reality is just not there. I mean, we have some great schools, but we knew that the ship was wrestling.
I think even the day he left, his family was still nervous. I think they were still ready to pull the plug. One thing that's exceptionally impressive with the Woods family is that they swallow whatever it takes to allow their son to reach his goals.
Look at Montini's history. You know, they're a very great school that send kids all over, I mean, to the best colleges, including Stanford.
Real did exceptionally well at Montini. It was a rough start, but once he got the wheels underneath him, he was cruising on through.
I did have to make a lot of social sacrifices. A lot of my friends, you know, like to go out and like to party. I knew that I had to get my homework done.
Stanford's admissions rate is like 4.5%. It's the most selective school in the country. It's already tough to get into. Wrestling can help, but what we don't have is we don't have slots. So we have a true admissions process, which means that each kid that we support through admissions as a recruited student athlete, they still have to be read by the people within our admissions office, and those people have to decide among them that that person is someone that they feel will thrive at Stanford University.
What is it, September 1st? Coaches were able to contact you. So they contacted me immediately, and we got the ball rolling.
The recruiting process for real was interesting, because you got the top coaches at the top academic institutions in the world calling Real, offering him the biggest scholarships, and I simply had to tell him no. Stanford's the goal.
From the beginning, we knew we wanted Real, but we didn't know if he would be able to get it. He wasn't a kid who came from, you know, this country club type neighborhood, and he had those AP classes early on.
So immediately I knew there was going to be challenges, but I also knew the work, the hard work that Real puts in, the hard work and love his family was going to give him, and I was going to do everything in my power to make sure he got there myself.
I had never been involved in such a drawn out process. I mean, this started in the spring of his freshman year. And I knew that it was possible, but he'd have to do the work.
He was pretty persistent about it. He kept mentioning it.
So it was getting him in the right classes for his sophomore year, and then seeing how his grades were coming in his sophomore year and advising him, you know, well, you really got to pick it up here. You know, you really got to pick it up here. And he responded every time.
We really focused on getting the right classes to make that happen.
He would come to us and tell us that this is what he needs.
And then it was increasingly rigor again for his junior year. So I think his junior year he was enrolled, I think, in 3 APs and 2 honors or so.
I knew that I had to study. I knew that I had to get my homework done.
He was on a mission and was going to get it done. He's a goal setter and he's going to get there. You know, this is true in everything he did.
The goal was always getting him to a point where by the time he applied to Stanford, admissions felt comfortable that this kid was going up.
Real didn't hesitate to let every other college know who was recruiting him that he was going to Stanford, and that's it.
We didn't entertain anything. You know, I'd say thank you. You know, I appreciate the, you know, reaching out, but I knew where I wanted to go.
So when the other coaches would call, his mom and dad knew that I was going to tell them right away, if you can sway the Woods family away from Stanford, then I'd let you guys entertain that recruiting. But I knew that there was no swaying Real from the ultimate dream of wrestling at Stanford.
You know, as a father, you know, you can't just put all your eggs in one basket, and that's what Real did with Stanford. Because of that, I was worried that, you know, if he didn't get admitted, which was the issue, was getting admitted, like everyone's issue there, it's like 1%, you know? So I mean, I'm 99% worried.
And then sent me the early application and started working on that.
As part of our process, we send in a recommendation letter to admissions, and it's called an athletic recommendation form. And usually we'll write a little paragraph about the kid. I wrote 3 pages single space for Real. And I wrote 3 pages single space because it had been such an involved process, and I had seen how much he had given up and how hard he had worked to get there. And very fortunately, it was July 6th of 2017. I'll never forget, got the call from our admissions officer, and he said that Real had been admitted.
As Real went through high school, every year was one step closer to the goal, Stanford. One step closer to the goal, Stanford. And 1 year down, Stanford.
I got a call, I saw it was coming, I was like, all right, here it is. So I went outside, I went in the front, on my front porch. I was like pacing back and forth, waiting for him to answer.
I remember exactly where I was when I got the call. I was in my car, I was driving. I pulled over on the side of the road, and I couldn't wait a minute before I called Real to tell him. He was extremely excited, and then as soon as I got off the phone with him, I called Izzy and told him, because it was definitely a joint effort.
So the process with Rio getting his acceptance into Stanford was gnarly, because it's everything you've worked for your whole life as a coach. I believe he called Rio, and he called me, and I believe he told me, and then Rio called me, and I immediately knew, talking to Ray in the first 2 seconds of his voice, that Rio got in.
And it was such a long process from me being in 7th grade. Everybody knew that that was the plan, you know, that was the goal.
That call is always one of the best things about my job, but that one was as exciting as any I've ever made. It was never a given. It was never a given, and we all knew that from the very beginning. We have a different admissions process, but he never lost faith in it, and he worked for it, and he earned it.
So we had a celebration and invited all my family, all my friends, and it was a really great time.
After Rio gets accepted into Stanford, after he finishes his high school education, high honors, after he had everything done, he did everything the right way, winning the state tournament was the middle point of this story, because it excelled into the next chapter of his life. We knew the sky was the limit. It's what's expected of Rio.
Now you're headed out to California. You're going to be a Stanford Cardinal?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And they don't let you go to that school if you're a dummy, so you must have some serious grades.
Yes, sir, I do, and you know, I'm blessed with the opportunity to go to that school, and I'm excited for what's to come. You know, this is nowhere close to the end. So I had to make some new goals, and that was to be a national champion and find out what I wanted to do in life for a career, and start working on that right away. So I was very, very focused going in. Set up all my classes, did really good.
We knew early on, like, this kid's ready to be an All-American right now.
And I remember going to the college room and, you know, holding my own.
He did well in school, and he was killing it in the room.
Yeah, it just flowed. And I knew that I just needed to make sacrifices. It was just like anything that I was used to, you know? Just like high school. It was, you know, just another challenge that I had to get through.
Real Woods came within a hair's breadth of taking down number 1.
Solid baseline wrestling. All Real Woods at 141 pounds.
But it was Real Woods of Stanford with the win.
As a freshman, a champion here, he gives a flex at the Southern Shuffle.
His name is Real Woods, Stanford's 19-1 redshirt freshman.
Real Woods is the real deal. You mentioned it's the redshirt freshman, comes in with only 1 loss.
Real Woods is putting on a display. Beautiful arm spin right there. So much offense, super aggressive.
Again, a lot of confidence, self-belief. He'll be a force to be reckoned with.
But Real Woods is a real player.
Yeah, he announced himself. It's established.
Great in all positions. He's going to be a fun guy to watch these next couple years, and I can't wait to see him at Nationals this year.
You work 7, 8 years with an individual because you see the future, you see the potential, and you believe in them. Then you're with them, and you're through this journey. And along the way, there's several other programs that are amazing. But Stanford's been the goal.
So when he and I talked about the program being cut, it was through text at first. And I said, you know, my heart goes out to you. I know this was your goal. And he said he felt like everything was taken away. Everything he had worked for, he felt was taken away.
My life is already made up. But to watch a young man who sacrificed everything he's had, left his family, left his friends. Every winter leaves his family again. Every holiday he debates if he can go home or continue the academic plan, the rigorous training. So to feel that it's been ripped away from him is very hard.
Stanford Wrestling is something that I've worked for more than just, you know, my high school career. Like, it's something that I've been working for since I was a 7th grade kid, you know, and that's somewhere where I wanted to go. And for me to put in so much of my energy and passion and just heart into that dream of mine, and to hear that happening was just, you can't imagine how heartbreaking that was.
No matter your size, shape, color, gender, or your economic circumstances, wrestling is a sport available to literally anyone. And if you're willing to work incredibly hard, wrestling can be the bridge to elite academic institutions like Stanford. On July 8th of 2020, Stanford announced that this bridge will no longer exist. Join us in the campaign to fund and reinstate Stanford Wrestling for another 100 years. Visit keepstanfordwrestling.com, where you will find specific ways to help ensure wrestling can remain a part of the Stanford experience, so that exceptional people like Real Woods have a chance to turn their Stanford dreams into reality. Thank you.